trajectory changed. At some point, my mood allowed enough of a crack in the door for me to bust on through, get back to my regular righteous bombastic self. It took some doing. You don't just rack up days worth of rough space without a little bit of inertia keeping you from getting on the right track in the good foot. Or that's an agreement that you can unmake with yourself anytime. But the position from which you have to interact with those things, and again, I say you, I mean me, you gotta get in there. And getting into the boiler room inside your own mind, in your own heart, in the complex of radiant beams and interesting interlocking infrastructure that's always shifting and changing within. That is, I'd like to call it a tricky business, but it's not. It's just you can't navigate it the same way you navigate the roads. At least not to a certain extent. And I'm using words to describe something that we all do all the time. There could be utility and use in saying that there is mostly similar space in that kind of traversal, or between those two kinds of traversal. They're not so different. That's a fine metaphor if you want to do that, or a fine premise if you want to, depending on where you want to go, depending on your aim. But sometimes it's useful to say no. Walking within is not walking with feet. Talking within is not talking with mouth. With mouth. Yeah. No, it's a little different. A little goopier. A little more opaque. Whew. That stitch is going nowhere. Let's check the time. Been about 35 minutes. Perfect. We're gonna ride on back. This was not a big run. I did not intend a big run. I intended, here's the kicker, I intended to do whatever, to go through whatever God-given vector was available to me, to continue along this path. Because I changed my path, now I have a little bit more wiggle room, a little bit more freedom, a little bit less goop. Or the goop is better tasting. I don't know where you want to go with that metaphor. I'm going to take a right here. Golly goodness, man. Will I just get to the point? No, that's not what runs are about. I'm an endurance runner anyway, so the longer it takes to get me to the point, the better. I never thought about that before. And yeah, we could run another hour. We could run another 2 hours if we really needed to, or more. I've not forgotten about my plan to escalate this mission. It is a plan, it's not an idle fantasy. However, today is, as today does, today's doing well. Whatever it takes for that to continue is what I'm going to do. Right now, it looks like I just surprised myself by going right. Maybe I'll stop narrating my experience. It's got to be a little chaotic. Sometimes you surprise yourself, though. I wonder. Well, I've got a bit of an idea, so we'll see if I follow through or get deferred again. It won't be for long. We're close to home. come on, Stitch. Open up. Breathe. There we go. It's still there, but it's a conversation. It's management. Anyway, because of the way the numbers have been coming in, the main fear that I had was a false fear. As soon as I looked at it, the main fear of, gotta bring them in all the time right now. Don't have the freedom to just hang out, assess, and what's the word? Pivot. Can't pivot, no time. And then I looked at it and I was like, no, we do have time. We've got plenty of time. We have exactly as much time as we need. And then, when it's time to bring more numbers in, I'll know it and I'll do it. There's different kind of work to do right now. I gotta put some into a different bank. So, that resulted in a salty breakfast and a good walk and I couldn't believe it, but also a podcast. What do you know? What do you know? You know, I keep doing that, don't I? I know that I am in a better position. When I go to reach for my journal, I open it up, whether it's the big journal or the mini journal, whatever. It was the mini journal today, mostly. But when I open her up and start writing, and I happen to notice that I'm writing slowly, and I'm not too concerned about exactly where I end up at the end of each sentence. Sentence structure, paragraph shaping, editing, grammar correction, punctuation, font continuity, if there is such a thing, when freehanding, and I think there is. All that crap went out the window, which is it's a mighty shameless and happy journal. I was writing in there, and it's like, wow, I really did undergo and participate. The word would be participation. And participate in the damnedest series of invisible micro adjustments. I certainly did. I certainly there did hereby. Who knew? For the rest of today, I was asked earlier by a housemate what I plan to do with the rest of my day. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Got any plans, or is it all going to just come to me? And I said what I told you guys earlier. I'm going to do exactly what I need to continue on this path. Experiences come and they go. No matter how profound, and I do have a sense of awe at the profundity of those micro adjustments, the ease of them, the creativity of them, the hope for the continuity of them as I go throughout my day. But I do know that these experiences do fade. They change and something new comes. It's a beautiful dance we play with life. No need trying to hold on, no use trying to hold on. Instead of that, we're just going to keep right on moving. I have some ideas. I think today, instead of drinking alone in my room, for instance, I think I'll go to a pub. I think I'll go to a pub, and I've got a couple of dark beers that I think I'd like to put back. Maybe over some food. And then I just want to let that come. Let it down, knock them back. Maybe go home and cook, maybe have a bite there. I don't know. I'll probably be writing or listening to some more podcasts. There's a hot one coming up. There's a hot podcast I need to listen to. I don't know. Yeah, I better err on the side of inclusivity. Yeah, so what that means right now is a shout out. Shout out to Aubrey Marcus. Y'all know. Great dude. It's like having a big bro. I appreciate. But also, he had an interview, and then also his host had an interview with him. So they kind of interviewed each other over the course of 2 episodes on 2 different podcasts, one of which was his podcast, one of which was hers. And the lady that interviewed him and got interviewed by him alternately, her name is Blue. It's funny, I mentioned her in the other episode 54. She actually, at the end of her podcast today with him, she asked her audience, she calls them bluebirds, regular listeners. She asked if her bluebirds would be so kind as to shout her out on their podcasts, their platforms, and also to flock on over to Aubrey's podcast and say hey, and give his stuff a listen. You know, it's proper etiquette. I shout you out, you shout me out. I have you on my program, you have me on yours. We bring each other's audiences in contact with each other, and the whole world becomes that much more of a happy word orgy. A beautiful thing. So, where else to go from there? Oh, right, I was doing a shout out. Because I like that podcast. I like their podcasts. But the reason I bring them up, not just Aubrey too, but Blue as well, is because the whole... God, why did I? Well, just because they asked, I guess. If I ever care to really grow this podcast's numbers, it'd be cool if a big amount of people found out about these kids who wouldn't have known otherwise. I don't know if that's likely to happen, but hey, proper shout-outs where proper shout-outs are due. I think Blue is pretty cool, and I think Aubrey's pretty cool. By the way, Blue's YouTube channel is called Blue, without an E. And, boy, the world needs more nice 4-letter words. I'll tell you that much. So, proper shout-outs where proper shout-outs are due. Go Blue, go. Anywho, I don't know if it's important to get into the specifics of their thinking and talking. Oh, I didn't complete that thought, did I? I said I had a pretty cool idea of a podcast I wanted to listen to later. Because Blue and Aubrey were talking, and I was really feeling those conversations, and I had forgotten. Oh, that's what it was. Aubrey mentioned his time in a meditation retreat a while ago, and I had already heard of this thing that he did, but I didn't realize that he did it first thing that year. And I also didn't know how interested I would be in it until he kind of went play by play with it, because they were talking about plant medicine practices and hallucinogens and shamanic journeys and all the sorts of stuff that I'm into. And Aubrey said that even though he was stone cold sober during this six days in a dark room, apparently by day 3, his body was converting melatonin into endogenous DMT that he could experience hallucinations with. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that even matters. If you spend 6 days in a dark room, I don't see a real difference between hallucinating, dreaming, or just thinking, you know? It's got to be like being in a float tank, you know? Anyway, it piqued my interest. I was like, oh shit. So I was already aware that he had done this retreat, and he had a podcast episode on it. But now I know, I'm like, oh shit. That was really important to him. He said it was one of the more magnificently intense psycho journeys, shaman journeys, whatever you want to call it, that he's ever been on. And he's done him a fair amount of DMT, ayahuasca, and mushrooms and things. So it's interesting. There's a lot of ways to get to these interesting places. So now, I got a couple hours of Aubrey talking to his bro about sitting in darkness for a few days and just processing. I'm in. Depending on what's in there, I might have to talk about it later in one of my own podcasts. Whew. I'm a little dry in the throat, not gonna lie. Stitches almost gone though, so that's nice. It's nice. Take them where we can get them. Today we dine. We dine on the sweet, succulent ambrosia of victory. Talking about made it today. Talking about awesome today. Talking about the weird nature of existentialism. Self-motivation. Pivoting. The hell is pivoting? It's like when Socrates beckoned Dan Millman into a dark room and was like, there's a secret in here. And then flicked the lights on and Dan freaked out, and then Sock was just peeing into the toilet bowl. Yeah. And he's like, hey, no big deal. But what I did there was not just pee in a bowl. What I did also, that was invisible to your eyes, was rid my kidneys of a subtle but incrementally self-catalyzing malignant toxicity. Right? Good timing. What kind of timing is that? That's crazy. Yeah. I get to complete a run and take the recycling in. God damn. Sometimes you just get lucky. So he told Dan that he essentially provided himself with an internal antidote through drainage of some form of kidney toxicity that would have become a problem later. I don't know if he was just saying that peeing itself is a miracle. I don't know what he was saying, but he was saying something. He was saying something. There's my shirt. And I feel the same way today. I feel like I just got struck by lightning. Like I saw a fairy float by my field of vision. I swear, I can't tell you how powerful and how special it feels. I'm not even going to try. I can do a podcast. We just did one. So whatever came up there was right. Whether or not it appears as if I am moved by some unseen force, or that some magical processes did happen, it just doesn't matter. I get to have a human experience of change and not knowing exactly where things are going. But I know where I am right now. At least I have a solid heart sense. I'm so tired of using language metaphors and allegories for this whatever listening is. Because I keep thinking, conscious self speaks in words, emotional self speaks in body, spirit speaks in presence, and somewhere there's a bridge, and the bridge is what people like to call the heart. Or it's just a whole bunch of words that are really nice. So there's talking, there's conversation, and the listening we were talking about, and then there's capital C conversations and capital L listening and that kind of thing. But it's the same word. This heart sense, this bridged communication that's partially conscious, partially emotional, partially spiritual. Only some of whose systems are passing through my conscious self to be given language in a day and age when mostly that's the self that gets talked about. Feelings and words and presence. Anyway, these are all good things. I'll leave you with them. And I hope that I've spoken a little bit more slowly this podcast. I was definitely amped up, but I always end up talking so fast, so we'll see, I guess. Anyway, it was fun to bury that rock in public, and it was fun to find it, and it was fun to talk about it for a bit, and it was also fun to do a real episode 54. So this has been that. I have been me, and we're going to cross the legs on the steps of the deck here, and we'll unwind, as I always do, from the wires. 55 minutes on the dot. Not bad. We'll take a few breaths, okay? Ready, set, go. Ambrosia. Fucking hell. Maybe next time we'll shoot for a household-friendly podcast. I don't know. Oh, oof, ouch. All right, guys. Take her easy.